Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and horror. Today we will explore the ancient forest of Kartakass, a domain haunted by howls and musical notes. Are you ready? Then let's follow this beaten trail in the forest and move away from the wild dangers of the night in search of a cozy tavern and the sound of good music. Howl of the Raven. Kartakass is a domain of dense forests, with only two large cities, with a very unique culture. The domain takes inspiration directly from twisted and dark fairy tales, especially those involving wolves, and an environment inspired by medieval Germany and Scandinavia. The Kartakass domain is located south of the Balinok Mountains, where once was the domain of Gundarak and now is the expanded domain of Barovia. To the east, it borders the lands of Forlon and Haslan, and to the west, it bordered the lands of Citicus. In the past, the south border was connected to the dangerous lands of Bloodspur, but after the Great Conjunction, these lands disappeared into a wall of mists. To the west, there is a region of rugged hills, where landslides and the opening of sinkholes and caves are frequent. These caves may be large enough to house pack of wolves or bears, and reports suggest that some link to a labyrinth network of underground tunnels. Most of Kartakass is still covered by untouched forests, and the human occupation and activity of woodcutter camps, farms, and cities took place mainly around the rivers that cross the region. The clearings opened and occupied by the woodcutters and farms divide Kartakass forests into three different woods, but shortly after the limit of farms and woodcutters' activities, the forests rise again, high, majestic, and practically impenetrable, except for small trails that connect communities. Traveling outside the main roads along these trails is dangerous for unwary travelers. The closed forests of Kartakass sometimes open to false trails that can lead to ravines hidden by a low fog and other predators that abound in these forests. The first of the great forests is Uxkoven, or the Wolfwood, the largest forest of all the region. This forest is known to be home to the largest wolf beasts in Kartakass and is surrounded by dark legends. In the middle of this forest, there is a large clearing where there is a huge solitary tree, whose roots have overgrown and drained the life of the surrounding vegetation. Local legends point out that large wolves gather around the tree at night, and that someone brave enough to climb to the top of the tree would understand the secrets shared by such creatures. Others, however, warn that such legends are a trap for the unwary, and that such a tree is really an undead horror that will devour those who want to unveil the lupine secrets. The Rootscoven Forest, or Redwood, is known by its name for the reddish color found in the bark of these trees, although many attest that the true reason for this name derives from the blood spilled at the feet of these trees. This forest grows over the hills on the west, and although it is also ravaged by wolves, many woodcutters and even hermits live in huts built usually on the top of hills at high points. Rumors say that a monastic order, known as the Guardians, has its monastery in this region, but the location of this building is unknown. Finally, the Felkskoven Forest, or Mistwood, is located to the south of the Musard River, bordering the Mist Frontier. This forest is usually covered by a dense fog that sweeps from the southern borders and is usually avoided by beasts and humans, being frequented only by insane mystics and cultists. Close to the southern border, we have the Arcalias Hills, a desolate region where the forest does not grow and are supposedly home to undead creatures. These hills border the old domain of Bloodspur before the Great Conjunction, and were affected by the corruption forces emanating from that domain. The caves on these hills reach great depths, and rumor suggests that even to this date there are secret paths underground connecting the domains of Kartakass and Bloodspur, and from which unspeakable horrors may emerge. Kartakass is crossed by two rivers. The Kilovan River comes from Forlan and goes down south, crossing the city of Skald and drawing the partition between the Wolfwood and Redwood, until it joins the Muzard River. The Muzard River flows westwards, through the south of Hazlan, and through the city of Harmonia until it reaches the realm of Sithicus. Fed by small streams from the Narov River, from the former lands of Gundarak, Lake Morkander, also known as the Black Heart, lies in the middle of the Wolfwood. Although there is no dwelling nearby, some brave navigators have already reached the lake navigating through these streams, but they say that a scaly and violent creature inhabits its depths. The region is crossed by two main roads. The Crimson Road descends from Barovia and goes to Skald and later Harmonia. The road is surprisingly free of bandits, but it's plagued by ferocious wolves. Those who wish to cross safely must plan to stop at one of the two inns along the way. We have fortified stables and constructions. The path between Skald and Harmonia has no inns or taverns, but it can be crossed during the daytime, if travelers start their journey early in the morning. The Merchant Road connects Skald to the kingdoms of Sithicus, crossing south of the Wolfwood. This road is little used and has no inns, but it's possible to find some farms along the way, and travelers should negotiate a stay with these farmers. Forests cover most of Kartakass, and they are composed of beech, oak, birch, ash, and black pines. The soil is fertile for plantations, and during the summer, its grassy areas flourish with wildflowers. Much appreciated by the population is the Mickelburn plant, a kind of vine that grows only in a few and widely spaced locations. At a certain time of the year, they grow over trees and produce sweet-smelling flowers and small fruits. These fruits are used to create a bitter drink called Mickelbrown, appreciated by bars for being able to increase their vocal skills. Bottles of this drink can reach very high prices, and the truth is that these plants only grow on soil bathed in the blood of victims of wolf wares. Another plant of curious properties is the night blight, which is the only vegetation that grows in the desolate Arcalia hills. This plant has a putrescent smell, capable of keeping all kinds of lupine creatures at bay. The fauna of Kartakass is full of animals typical of a temperate climate. Rodents, deer, wild boars and bears are very common in these forests. However, the most common creature in the region are wolves, which abound and plague Kartakass. The main source of food for these wolves are the wild boars that inhabit the forests. Wolves of Kartakass roam in pack and do not fear humans, being known for chasing carriages and even entering streets of unfortified villages and invading houses to drag children or animals to satisfy their hunger. Inside the untouched forests, animals may grow to dire sizes, and legend tells of the grandfather wolf, owl, and boar. A grandfather boar is a beast of enormous size and quite dangerous if provoked. Some groups of brave hunters sometimes set out to try to hunt these gigantic beasts when they find a fresh trail. Grandfather wolves are the biggest predators in the kingdom, giant beasts and ravenous hunters. Finally, the grandfather owl are rare and huge birds, which sometimes attack outside their usual hunting areas, carrying in the air sheep, children, and other domestic animals. These legendary creatures are used by local bards as allegories to their moral tales. assuming human features in many tales and stories. In some caves to the west, it's not uncommon for some goblins to escape the domains of Forlorn and inhabit some of the caves. Finally, it's important to highlight the dangers of the Naruv, a trickster wolf, also known as a wolf-were, who circulate through Kartakass, hidden among human society and wolf packs. These creatures are bloodthirsty wolves that somehow acquire the power to transform themselves into humans, assuming any form or sex to hunt among the unwary humans. Although these stories seem to come out directly of twisted and dark fairy tales and legends, many were the hunters and adventurers who dying believed they were facing a regular werewolf, just to discover another type of horror. The population of Kartakass believes they inhabited this region from time immemorial, and they are usually tall, slim, and elegant. Their skin is light in complexion, and some often have a few small freckles. Their eyes are usually blue or violet, and their hair is usually blonde, with some individuals having a dark hair. Men and women keep their hair long and loose, and men have a habit of wearing goatees and long mustaches. The population of Kartakass usually dress in an elegant and dashing way, with plenty of colors in their fabrics. Women only wear dresses on formal occasion, and daily men and women wear blousy shirts, pants, and long boots. Women often wear short vests over their blouses, and men wear long open jackets. Hats, jewelry, and earrings are common for both sexes, especially among the wealthiest. The population of Kartakass speaks the Vasi language, but its proximity to the kingdom of Citicus have made many of them to assimilate several words of the elegant elven language in their culture. The old and original language of this region was Kartakan, but is practically extinct, and is used only in formal matters or to communicate secrets. Most of the population of Kartakass live in poverty and depend on a hard work routine to maintain their survival. Although few will ever admit it, saying proudly that they choose and enjoy a simple life. Despite this, cultural and entertainment activities are broad and accessible, even to the poorest classes. This access to culture does not change the fact that Kartakass is a backward domain. There is difficulty in accessing education and medical care, and Kartakass still have a high mortality rate among children. Kartakass weddings are generally decided by love, but it's not uncommon for families to set requirements and conditions for couples before accepting their marriage. Divorces and remarriages are permitted, but they are still scandalous matters. Kartakass education is done by their families, and usually barely covers basic aspects of practical life, language, or reading. Much of the population education and knowledge is based on the community's theatrical and musical performances. Formal education is only possible through bard halls of Harmonia and Scout, but they only admit talented young students whose families are able to afford expensive annual fees. This bardic education and training take around 10 years and cover several topics, but with a focus on artistic and musical skills. Kartakass soil is rich, and even the poor inhabitants feed well, eating fruits and vegetables. One of the typical dishes is the borscht, a soup that takes several ingredients. Eggs and meat are also part of their diet, but only people with more resources can afford the usual consumption of various meats, such as wild boars, deer, sausage, meat steaks, and spices. The practice of gossip, sharing secrets and rumors, is common among society, but only among acquaintances. After the revelation of a secret, the listener is expected to reveal another secret out of courtesy, and the population entertain themselves with games of intrigue. The true passion of the people of Kartakass, however, is their music and stories. Through musical, theatrical presentations and storytelling, they are entertaining and also pass on tales of wisdom, morals, and education. Among the people of Kartakass, it is expected that throughout their lives they will contribute at least one musical composition to the Mora, a group of songs of a community, considered sacred by these people. The Mora is an ever-growing group of songs that is considered sacred to the religion of the ancestral choir, and usually contains some teachings through allegories with songs, poetry, elaborate stories about heroic deeds, historical figures, and legends. Most of the people of Kartakass accept magic as part of nature, but they still consider it dangerous. They are not very religious, but some of them worship the ancestral choir, an ancient religion of old Kartakass that has resurged in the city of Harmony. The people of Kartakass believe in the existence of a spiritual world, and the souls of the dead join the chorus of voices from the ancestors. Through the music created by the ancestors and their stories, they can be remembered and protect the living that honor them. However, the soul of a dead man must be preserved from danger. If the body of a recent dead is devoured by wolves, their soul will be taken to the spirit forests, where it will be forever hunted by wolves from beyond this world. The body of a dead man must be preserved and protected so as not to be devoured, otherwise he will be dragged to this terrible fate. Families with money build stone tombs, and some even put iron railings to prevent wolves from digging and devouring recent corpses. The poorest cannot afford such protections, and they perform a ritual to protect their dead. While some watch over the body through the night, others lead goats or other sacrifices to the woods and tie such animals to trees as offers to the wolves. After this act, the body is buried without new protections, as the wolves would already have been deceived and satisfied by the sacrifices, and the deceased soul will be able to join the ancestral choir. Kartakass constructions are usually made of wood, with wide support beams. Architecture often incorporates parts of nature, taking advantage of large trees as means of support of its buildings. Some buildings have their front carved with frescoes of legendary heroes, animals, or flowers. The interior of every Kartakass building usually contains bars on doors and windows, even in poor houses, stables, and barns, to protect them and their livestock from attacks by wolves. All cities in Kartakass are usually built around public amphitheaters, where annual singing competitions are held. Although Kartakass is not the target of political conflict, both of the major cities have defenses around them, with Skald being protected by great walls, towers, and siege weapons, and Harmonia with spiked pits and walls. Although the Kartakass region is considered to be one of the continent's nations, there is no kingdom or ruler that claims to have dominion over these lands. The nation of Kartakass is actually made up of two large city-states, and some small villages and independent communities scattered throughout this territory. The two main cities are Skald and Harmonia. Although they are rivals and competitive in terms of their festivals and performances, they have never had a history of violence between them, and recognize that they share a common culture and interests. The economy of Kartakass is mostly agricultural. The fertile soil of these lands generates an abundance of food, but the farms are concentrated around the big cities of Harmonia and Skald, and the Merchant Road. Animal husbandry is also carried out, but the constant attacks of wolves usually demand great attention and care from the shepherds. The main exported product from Kartakass is timber, and many woodcutters' camps operate in the edge of their forests. The risk of operating in such dangerous forests and the lack of a government to provide them with greater security makes such activity very dangerous. In Skald and Harmonia, you can also find skilled manufacturers of musical instruments, whose products are famous throughout the continent for their exceptional quality. The government of the cities is exerted by a Meistersinger or Master Singer, a kind of burgomaster or mayor chosen through a singing competition. These rulers are top authority in the city and act as judges, setting penalties for criminals and resolving disputes, administering public funds and city investments, and appointing lesser officers to manage specific issues. The law and order in these cities are maintained by captains appointed by the Meistersinger. Although tasked with guarding the interests of the city as a whole, it's not uncommon for these captains to be authoritarian, selfish, and to practice extortion and abuse, and even demand varied bribes, especially from foreigners. The Meistersinger is considered the cultural and moral leader of a community, and is in charge of teaching the Mora, the set of songs and legends that tell the history, wisdom, and morals of that people. Weekly, they held the Prima Consulare, forums dedicated to entertainment, philosophical discussions, teachings, and even to present community issues and attend requests from the population on various subjects. These leaders usually enjoy lives of comfort and luxury, and have ample access to public coffers, supplied with established taxes and fees. The Meistersinger is chosen annually in a singing contest held at midsummer. Anyone has a chance to compete against the Meistersinger in this contest, regardless of sex, age, and social status, and even foreigners could participate. However, the winners are elected by popular acclaim, and the population of Kartakass is quite conservative in some ways. During the day when these disputes are held, festivities occur through the city, with presentations of all kinds. When the sun touches the horizon, however, the Meistersinger takes the stage, greeting everyone in the old language of Kartakass, and the dispute began in 3 different stages. In the first stage, called A Voice Against Many, any candidate challenging the position can take the stage and sing a song, without any instrument to accompany their voice. At the end of the presentation, the Meistersinger will ask the public their opinion, and select only the top 5 according to popular acclaim. After a break, the second round begins, called the War of Words. This test will avail the candidate's rhetoric, creativity, and ability to prefer and resist to insults. The Meistersinger will ask each one of the 5 candidates what makes them apt to govern the city, and they must not only defend their claim, but also insult and disqualify the other candidates, usually in a cruel, comical, and satirical way. At the end of the entire debate and presentation, the Meistersinger asks the audience who was the winner, and the most acclaimed debater moves on to the next stage. The final stage starts after the sunset of the following night, and is disputed between the last contestant and the currently Meistersinger. With a single song, each one must show their talents, wisdom, knowledge, and even expose the flaws of other candidates. The election is according to the audience acclaim and applause, and the winner will be the new Meistersinger. During this contest, no kind of supernatural or magical advantage can be used, but many rumors suggest that countless candidates break this rule, in the hope of not being discovered. The truth is that seldom does a Meistersinger lose one of these duels, since they use his access to resources, power, and popularity to win the sympathy of the audience along the past year, and most enjoy a long period in this position. However, Meistersingers who are clearly incompetent in their administration generally do not gain the sympathy of the audience, and are quickly removed from their positions. Thus, we conclude our guide for explorers of Kartakass. Do you still intend to explore these ancestral forests and the legends, culture, and folklore of the people who inhabit it? So subscribe to this channel, activate notifications, and join us as we prepare to hear a presentation of the local bards in the city's amphitheater, reporting songs from a past lost in legends and poetry.